Hi all, it's issue 21 time, so we've got a few more bits and pieces to do to the Falcon. As usual, basically this week, bit more of, I think this is a little bit of frame for connecting up a little bit that was left loose from the last issue, and this looks a little bit like, I don't know if it's the supporting piece at the bottom of the frame for the entry ramp. I think it is actually, because the top of these normally have airlocks in them, so I think that's probably the bottom. And then a little bit of a look for next week. This is cushions for the internal corridors and more framework. So as usual, I'll get it all open, we'll see what we're doing, and then I'll come back to you in a bit. Bye for now. Okay, fairly simple again. Effectively we've just got the cushions here for the corridor section that we put together last time. It's just a case of cutting them off nice and neatly, sorting out any dodgy sprue or rough bits that are left on there, and then just do a little dry fit. So that's part number one. They fit very well actually. So that's the first piece. The two little notches just line up with the notches in the back of the corridor, and there you go. So it's just a case of putting those in. Looks like we just got one side, I think, this week. Maybe more. No, I think there's only enough bits there for one side. Presumably it's do this side this week, and I would imagine we'll get the other parts next week or something. But so yeah, the only other bits we've got are a little bit more framework, and it looks like this is going to be the underside of. This is where we've got our hole at the moment, and this looks to me like that's going to be the one that fits up under there. Can't really see with my hand in the way, but you get the idea. I think that's just going to go straight up and onto there. So I'll get these on, show you a bit more what it's like, but I'm using the same methods as I've showed you before. Cut them off nice and neatly, just trim off any nasty bits, and then we're using, because it's a resin kit, we're using super glue. So I'll come back once a little bit more's done. Bye for now. Right, these actually fit quite well. They don't really overlap as I thought they were going to. As you can see, that little one on the end. So, but what you do is when you fit these, you're fitting them with the tabs up, effectively. So the tabs upwards, and that will just go in to sit in there, like so. And then we just continue down the corridor. I'll go and glue that now, because it doesn't want to sit there on its own. And there we have it. That's what you should have at the end of these parts. It's just really the cushions on one side of that corridor. I'm guessing sometime soon, maybe next week, we'll get the same ones for the other side. But very simple. Just pop them in there, get them as straight as you can. Most of them fit quite nicely first time. As for the rest of this week's bits and pieces, it's really only a little bit more hole plating, which is going to match up with that piece there, and then this is obviously the piece that's going to work over that. So I won't actually do that this week because there's not much to hold it on. I don't want to put it under too much stress. Continuing with the spirit of not being able to leave it alone, excuse me, I thought I'd do a little bit of planning ahead. Now we've got most of this part of the hull now. This is the diagrams and paint guide from the fine moulds version, and I'm going to mask off and prepare to paint these three coloured panels. There's two red and one grey. I'm just masking them off on here in the right place. Now there's some of these, if you look at the edges, they're not straight edges, they've got these little square bits that fit in and out of the panels, so I'm going to be masking that appropriately. Now I've got a bit here, you see, the red, it wants to be marked into those, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to mask up for that. The simplest way of doing it is just cut your masking tape. Now you can buy masking tape in very, very thin strips. The Tamiya tape comes that way, but basically I'm just cutting them into strips that will fit just into each one of those. That one's slightly big, but I think by the time it gets pushed in with a little knife, it'll be pretty good. So that's pretty much it. That's how I'm going to try and achieve that. So I'll get on. So it's just little thin strips cut to the size of that notch, and then just filled in. I've got some more to do there as well. Another little tip for this, I'm just going to use, remember our friend the good old cocktail stick for when we're trying to get the glue into really fiddly places. It's great to just get that to sit down into those little grooves as well. So we should be able to paint that and have the paint where we want it. I've just got one more to do. There we go. So that's got some masking tape into each of those little nooks and crannies. Now this one was more interesting because there isn't a moulding to follow like there is here, but quite clearly on there they say, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it on the studio model as well, there's two little chunks out, so I'm achieving the same just by making up my own. So that's the masking done for those three little bits. I'm only going to use an airbrush, so I don't need to, you know, go mad and mask off the whole thing. You would do if you were looking to use cans. Okay, it's a bit of a trial at this stage. I've just masked off and painted a few areas. So that basically is that one there. The close-up would be there, and then I've gone and done two more. One is one of the red panels and one of the grey panels. That might be a little bit too metallic. I might have to change these colours later. They may not be the final ones, but that's basically that, and that I've just done. So we've got, yeah, there, and there. So that's taking it off the fine moulds paint information. So it's funny, I am noticing there is quite a bit of detail difference between the fine moulds one and this one, so not sure which is the more accurate. I'd have to have a look on the pics I've got of the studio model, but yeah, it's a little bit more done. I'll let this paint dry, and then I'll take it off and show you the results when the masking tape's off, and then it'll need a little bit of weathering over, and as I say, I'm largely experimenting at this point, but that's it for now. Okay, test time. So these should be dry by now, so I'm just going to remove, oh, got a bit of overspray. I need to do a bit of work on that. Actually, I should have left it a bit longer. It's a little bit of overspray I have to get rid of. So I should have masked off a bigger area, and there's just some little untidy edges at the back which I can scrape off once it's dry, but that gives you a rough idea. Let's see what they're... I think I'll leave these two a little bit longer actually. Yeah, still a little bit damp. You can see they're a bit damp by the fact they've got little trails there. So okay, well, it was an experiment. I'll come back to you a bit later. Okay, after a little bit of cleaning up, that's not too bad. I need to gouge a few little bits of paint back out again because it wants to look scratched up. But those two panels are done. Gives you an idea. Got a bit of overspray here and here, but it doesn't matter because they're going to be underneath the two landing pad structures. So yeah, just a little bit of an experiment. Get a couple of panels on, a couple of panels painted. Silver might be a bit too dark, that silvery grey might be a bit too dark. Got the edges to come up nice though, just how I wanted them, so you can actually, you know, see the edges. It hasn't spilt down into the other bits, into the bit below, so that's the masking's worked quite nicely. And again there, got the two little nooks out of the red bit that aren't actually in the moulding, so I've just done that by masking. There we go. Right, I think that really is it for this week. I might do a little bit more of this because obviously there's panels got to go on the, you know, the cockpit area and the tube, the passenger tube tunnel. There's tons and tons of stuff to go on. So, but I think that's the only bit I can do at the moment on the hull. I did darken this up a little bit inside just to make it look a little bit more machine-like in there, but it's very, very rough at the moment. It's going to have a wash and be done differently, but it's just to sort of darken it up a little bit. There we go, there's another little view of some of the internals so far. So you'll all remember the main hold and the first corridor that we put together. Well, this just gives you an idea how the second corridor joins to the first. If you look at the Falcon, you'll realise that the cockpit is actually slightly high of centre, which is why you have this little ramp in here. So if you were travelling back to the cargo hold from the cockpit, you'd be sort of coming out of the cockpit round the corner through the corridor there, and then you go down this little ramp to join the main ring, if you like. I'll give you another view of that from in here. So you can see the way you'd come down through there. And then, I'm not sure, but I'll try and turn it round. Let's see if we can get a view in there as well, so you get an idea sort of how that all works. Yeah, and there you go. So you've got it round here, and then you can probably just see this cockpit corridor going around here, and then you'd have the further round. Obviously, you'd have the way out to the escape. The escape pods. I think there's supposed to be one either side, but obviously there's the entrance ramp on the right hand side. So there we go. So that's an update on there. Meant to do it earlier, but I forgot to actually put them together and show you. So this gives you an idea how the internal bits and pieces are coming together. That's it for now.